The BFG by Roald Dahl. Dramatised by Edward Kelsey. Sophie couldn't sleep. A brilliant moonbeam was slanting through a gap in the curtains. It was shining right onto her pillow. The other children in the dormitory had been asleep for hours. The house was absolutely silent. The window behind the curtain was wide open, but nobody was walking on the pavement outside. Not the tiniest sound could be heard anywhere.
Oh, perhaps this is what they call the witching hour. The special moment in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep and all the dark things come out from hiding and have the world to themselves. If I get up and close that gap in the curtains, maybe then I could get to sleep. Where are my glasses? They should be on the chair beside the bed. I can't see a thing without them. Ah, here they are. That's better. Now I must be very quiet not to wake anybody up. They punish you if they catch you out of bed. I mustn't bump into anything and make a noise. There. That's it. Now I can close the curtain. The street looks so different in the moonlight, all pale and ghostly. What's that? There's something coming up the other side of the street. Something black. Something tall and black. Something very tall and very black and very thin. It's not a human. It can't be. It's 4 times as tall as the tallest human. But it's definitely a person. A giant person wearing a black cloak. Oh dear. He's coming closer. He's stopping at every house and peering in at the bedroom windows. And what's he got in his hand? He looks like a long, thin trumpet. And he's carrying a big suitcase. Now what's he doing? He's taken something out of his suitcase. It looks like a jar. He's opened it, and he's pouring something into the trumpet thing. He's poking the trumpet in through an open window. There are children sleeping in that room, I know. Now he's blowing down the trumpet. Whatever he had in that jar, he's blown through the trumpet into the children's bedroom. Oh, he's looking this way. He's seen me.
Sophie flew across the dormitory and jumped into her bed and hid under the blanket. There she crouched, still as a mouse and tingling all over. After a minute or so, she lifted a corner of the blanket and peeped out. Her blood froze to ice, and she wanted to scream, but no sound came out. There at the window, with the curtains pushed aside, was the enormous, long, pale, wrinkly face of the giant person staring in. The next moment, a huge hand reached in and Sophie was lifted up from her bed, blanket and all, and whisked out of the window. Away ran the giant, so fast that his black cloak was streaming out behind him like the wings of a bird.
Oh dear! Where's he taking me? Oh, he's running so fast. That must be because he's hungry and he wants to go home as quickly as possible. And then he'll have me for breakfast.
The giant ran on, faster and faster. He had some sort of magic in his legs, and it was impossible to tell whether they were over land or sea.
It feels like we're flying.
The giant ran on for what seemed like hours to Sophie, and at last came to an enormous cave. He rolled away the great stone that closed it and went inside. Sophie was untangled from the blanket and she saw that she was in an enormous cave with a high, rocky roof. The walls were lined with shelves, and on the shelves were row upon row of glass jars. The giant lifted her up onto a table that was 12 feet high.
What has us got here?
Please don't eat me.
Just because I is a giant, you think I is a man-gobbling cannibal. You is about right. Giants is all cannibal-y and murderful. And they does gobble up human beings. We is in giant country now. Giants is everywhere around. Out there, us has the famous bone-crunching giant. Bone-crunching giant crunches up 2 wopsy-whiffling human beings for supper each night. Noise is ear-bursting. Noise of crunching bones goes crackety-crack for miles around.
Ouch!
Bone-crunching giant only gobbles human beings from Turkey. Every night, Bone Cruncher is galloping off to Turkey to gobble Turks.
Why Turks? What's wrong with the English?
Bone-crunching giant says Turks is tasting, ever so much juicier and more scrumdiddlyumptious. All human beings is having different flavors. Human beings from Panama is tasting very strong of hats.
Why hats?
You is not very clever. I thought all human beings is full of brains, but your head is emptier than a bundungle.
Do you like vegetables?
You is trying to change the subject. We is having an interesting babblement about the taste of the human bean. The human bean is not a vegetable.
Oh, but the bean is a vegetable.
Not the human bean. The human bean has 2 legs, and a vegetable has no legs at all.
I suppose not.
The human bean is coming in dillions of different flavors. For instance, human beans from Jersey has a most disgustable woolly tickle on the tongue. Human beans from Jersey is tasting of cardigans.
You mean jerseys?
You are gobble-funking. Don't do it. This is a serious and snitching subject. May I continue?
Please do.
Danes from Denmark is tasting ever so much of dogs.
Of course. They taste of Great Danes.
Wrong. Danes from Denmark is tasting doggy because they is tasting like Labradors.
Then what do the people of Labrador taste of?
Danes. Great Danes.
Aren't you getting a bit mixed up?
I is a very mixed up giant, but I does do my best. And I is not nearly as mixed up as the other giants. I know one who gallops all the way to Wellington for his supper.
Wellington? Where's Wellington?
Oh, your head is full of squashed flies. Wellington is in New Zealand. The human beings on Wellington has an especially scrumdiddlyumptious taste. So says the welly-eating giant.
What do the people of Wellington taste of?
Boots.
Of course. I should have known. But what sort of human beings do you eat?
Me? Me gobbling up human beings? This I never. The others, yes. All the others is gobbling them up every night, but not me. I is a freaky giant. I is a nice and jumbly giant. I is the only nice and jumbly giant in giant country. I is the big friendly giant. I is the BFG. What is your name?
My name is Sophie. But if you're so nice and friendly, then why did you snatch me from my bed and run away with me?
Because you saw me. If anyone is ever seeing a giant, he or she must be taken away hip-switch.
Why?
Well, first of all, human beings is not really believing in giants, is they?
I do.
Ah, but that is only because you has seen me. I cannot possibly allow anyone, even little girls, to be seeing me and staying at home. The first thing you will be doing, you will be scuttling around, yodeling the news that you are actually seeing a giant. And then a great giant hunt, a mighty giant look-see will be starting up all over the world, with the human beings all rummaging for the great giant you saw and getting wildly excited. People will be catching me and locking me into a cage to be stared at. They will be putting me into the zoo or the bunkum house with all those squiggling hippo dumplings and crocodile dillies. I bet you that you would have been splashing the news all over the wonky world, wouldn't you, if I hadn't wiggled you away?
I suppose I would.
And that would never do.
So what will happen to me now?
If you do go back, you will be telling the world, most likely, on the telly bunkum box and the radio squeaker. So you will just have to be staying here with me for the rest of your life.
Oh, no!
Oh, yes. But I'm warning you not ever to go whiffling about out of this cave without I is with you, or you will be coming to an ucky-mucky end. I is showing you now who is going to eat you up if they is ever catching even one tiny little glimpse of you. Come on, hop up onto my hand and I'll be carrying you over to where you can peep out of the cave and see what's going on outside. There. Now, tell me what you is seeing.
I can see giants. They are much bigger than you and terribly ugly. They're just sitting on the rocks or wandering about. They really are ugly. But they're too far away to see their faces clearly.
Perhaps that's a good thing.
What on earth are they doing?
Nothing. They's just moochling and footling around and waiting for the night to come. Then they will all be galloping off to places where people is living to find their suppers.
Do they ever go to England?
Often. They say the English is tasted ever so wonderfully of crod scallop.
I'm not sure I quite know what that means.
Meanings is not important. I cannot be right all the time. Quite often I is left instead of right.
And are all those beastly giants over there really going off again to eat people?
All of them is guzzling human beings every night. All of them excepting me. That is why you will be coming to an ucky-mucky end if any of them should ever be getting his gogglers upon you. You would be swallowed up like a piece of frunkin pie, all in one dollop.
But eating people is horrible. Why doesn't someone stop them?
And who, please, is going to be stopping them?
Couldn't you?
Never in a pig's whistle. All those man-eating giants is enormous and very fierce. They is at least 2 times my whiteness and double my royal highness.
Twice as high as you?
Easily that. You is seeing them in the distance. But just wait till you get them close up. Those giants is all at least 50 feet tall, with huge muscles and cockles alive-o. I is the titchy one. I is the runt. 24 feet is puddle nuts in giant country.
You mustn't feel bad about it.
What?
I think you are just great. Why? Even your toes must be as big as sausages.
Bigger? They is as big as bumplehammers.
How many giants are there out there?
9 altogether.
That means that somewhere in the world every single night, 9 wretched people get carried away and eaten alive.
More. It is all depending, you see, on how big the human being is.
And if you were to put me down on the ground and I was to walk among them now, would they really eat me up?
Like a whiff swiddle. And what is more, they wouldn't even have to chew you. The first one to be seeing you would pick you up in his fingers and down you'd go like a drop of drain water.
Let's go back inside. I hate even watching them.
Back from which we go, then. Here we are. I is popping you onto the table where I can see you.
Thank you.
Is you quite snugly there in your nightie? You isn't fridgy cold.
Oh, I'm fine.
I cannot help thinking about your poor mother and father. By now they must be jipping and scumping all over the house, shouting, "Hello, hello, where is Sophie gone?"
I don't have a mother and father.
Oh.
They both died when I was a baby.
Oh, you poor little scrumplet. Is you not missing them very badly?
Not really, because I never knew them.
You is making me sad.
Don't be sad. No one is going to be worrying too much about me. The place you took me from was the village orphanage.
You is an orphan?
Yes.
How many is there in there?
10 of us, all little girls.
Was you happy there?
I hated it.
Oh.
The woman who ran it was called Mrs. Clonkers. And if she caught you breaking any of the rules, like getting out of bed at night, or not folding up your clothes, you got punished.
How was you getting punished?
She locked us in a dark cellar for a day and a night, without anything to eat or drink.
Oh, the rotten old rot rasper.
It was horrid. We used to dread it. There were rats down there. We could hear them creeping about.
Oh, the filthy old fizzwiggler. That's the horridest thing I is hearing for years. Oh, you was making me sadder than ever.
The thing that worries me is having to stay in this dreadful place for the rest of my life. The orphanage was pretty awful, but I wouldn't have been there forever, would I?
Oh, all is my fault. I is the one who kid-snatched you.
Now I come to think of it, I won't actually be here all that long.
I is afraid you will.
No, I won't. Those brutes out there are bound to catch me sooner or later and have me for their tea.
Oh, I is never letting that happen.
Thank you. May I ask you a question?
Shoot away.
Would you please tell me what you were doing in our village last night?
Oh, you is asking me to tell you whoopsie big secrets. Secrets that nobody is ever hearing before.
I won't tell a soul. How could I anyway? I'm stuck here for the rest of my life.
Well, you could be telling the other giants.
No, I couldn't. They'd eat me up the moment they saw me. Please tell me what you were doing in our village.
If you is really wanting to know, I is blowing a dream.
Blowing a dream? What do you mean?
I is a dream-blowing giant. When all the other giants is galloping off every what way in which to swallow up human beings, I is scuttling away to other places to blow dreams into the bedrooms of sleeping children. Nice dreams. Dreams that is giving the dreamers a happy time.
Now hang on a minute. Where do you get all these dreams?
I collect them. I has billions of them. Those jars on the shelves is full of them.
You can't collect a dream.
You is never going to understand about it. That is why I is not wishing to tell you.
Oh, please tell me.
Dreams is very mysterious things. They is floating around in the air like little wispy, misty things. And all the time they is searching for sleeping people.
Can you see them?
Never at first.
Then how do you catch them?
A dream, as it goes whiffling through the night air, is making a tiny, buzzing, humming noise, but it's so silvery soft it is impossible for a human being to be hearing it.
Can you hear it?
Is you seeing these ears of mine?
How could I miss them? They're very big.
Well, they maybe is looking a bit preposterous to you, but they is not to be coughed at.
I'm quite sure they're not.
They is allowing me to hear absolutely every single twiddly little thing.
You mean you can hear things I can't hear?
You is as deaf as a dumpling compared with me. You is hearing only thumping loud noises with those little earwigs of yours, but I am hearing all the secret whisperings of the world.
Such as what?
Well, in your country, I is hearing the footsteps of a ladybird as she goes walking across a leaf.
Honestly?
What's more, when a ladybird is walking across a leaf, I is hearing her footsteps going clumperty, clumperty, clump like giant's footsteps.
Good gracious me! What else can you hear?
Well, sometimes on a very clear night, and if I is swiggling my ears in the right direction, I is sometimes hearing faraway music coming from the stars in the sky.
Oh!
My ears told me you was watching me out of your window last night.
But I didn't make a sound.
I heard your heart beating across the road, loud as a drum.
Go on, please.
I can hear plants and trees.
Do they talk?
They is not exactly talking, but they is making noises. For instance, if I come along and I is picking a lovely flower, if I is twisting the stem of the flower till it breaks, then the plant is screaming. I can hear it screaming and screaming very clear.
How awful! Is that really true?
You think I is Swiss figgling you?
It is rather hard to believe.
Then I is stopping right here. I is not wishing to be called a fibster.
Oh no, I'm not calling you anything. I believe you. I do, really.
I wouldn't ever be fibbling to you.
I know you wouldn't. But you must understand that it isn't easy to believe such amazing things straight away.
Well, I understand that.
So do please forgive me and go on.
Well, such wonderful and terrible sounds I is hearing. Some of them you would never wish to be hearing yourself, but some is like glorious music.
Tell me some more about them.
You just ought to be hearing the little miceies talking.
What do they say?
Well, only the little miceies know that. Spiders is also talking a great deal, and when they is spinning their webs, they is singing sweeter than a nightingale.
Is there a dream floating around in here now?
Shh, quiet. Shh. No. There is no dream in here, except in the bottles. I has a special place to go for catching dreams.
How do you catch them?
Same way you is catching butterflies, with a net. There it is, see? Over in the corner, on the end of that pole.
It's just like a butterfly net, but it's enormous.
That is the dream catcher. Every morning I is going out and snitching new dreams to put in my bottles. But I is getting hungry. It is time for eats.
If you don't eat people like all the others, what do you live on?
That is a squelching, tricky problem around here. In this slush-flunking giant country, nothing is growing except for one extremely icky poo vegetable. It's called the Snozz Cumber.
What's that?
I will show you. I has a cupboard full. Look, here is the great, long, knobbliest thing, the repulsant Snozz Cumber.
Goodness! It looks like a huge black and white cucumber with knobbles.
Oh, I squoggle it, I mispise it, I desponge it. But because I is refusing to gobble up human beings like the other giants, I must spend my life guzzling up icky poo Snozz Cumbers instead. If I don't, I will be nothing but skin and groans.
You mean skin and bones.
I know it is bones, but please understand that I cannot be helping it if I sometimes is saying things a little squiggly. I is trying my very best all the time. I suppose I must bite into the filthy things. It's disgustorous. It's sickable. It's maggot-wise. Try it yourself, this foulsome Snozz Cumber.
No, thank you.
Well, it's all you're going to be guzzling around here from now on, so you might as well get used to it.
Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Oh, help. That tastes like frog skins.
It's worse than that.
Do we really have to eat it?
Well, you do unless you is wanting to become so thin you'll be disappearing into a thick ear.
You mean into thin air. A thick ear is something quite different.
Words is, such a twitch-tickling problem to me all my life. I know exactly what words I'm wanting to say, but somehow or other, there's always getting squiff-squiddled around.
I think you speak beautifully.
Well, that is the nicest present anybody is ever giving me in my whole life. Are you sure you is not twiddling my leg?
Of course not. I just love the way you talk.
Wow, how wonder crump, how whoopsie splunkers. I is all of a stutter.
Listen, we don't have to eat Snozz Cumbers. In the fields around our village, there are all sorts of lovely vegetables, like cauliflowers and carrots. Why don't you get some of those next time you go visiting?
I is a very honourable giant. I would rather be chewing up rotsome Snozz Cumbers than snitching things from other people.
You stole me?
I did not steal you very much. After all, you was only a tiny little girl.
Runt! Is you there? Runt!
Look out! It's the blood bottler!
I is hearing you jabbering. Who is you a-jabbering to? Runt?
Hide yourself quickly. He's coming in.
Who was you jabbering to in here just now?
I is jabbling to myself.
Piffle fizz, bugs wallop. You is talking to a human being. That's what I is thinking.
No.
Yes. I is guessing you has snitched away a human being and brought it back to your bunghole as a pet. So now I is winkling it out and guzzling it as extra snacks before my supper.
There's no one here. Why don't you leave me alone?
Runty little scum-screwer, piffling little switch-figure, a pranty little pug-swizzler. I is now going to search the primroses, and you is going to help me do it. Us together is going to winkle out this tasteful little human being. Come over here and tell me what's in these piffling bottles.
Thank goodness that bud bottler hasn't seen me yet. He's enormous. Twice the size of the BFG. I must find somewhere safe to hide. I know. If I scoop a hole in this awful Snozz Cumber, I can hide inside it. There. That's it. Oh dear. It's very wet and slimy. But never mind. He'll never think to look for me in here.
Squimpy little bottle wart, tell me what you is putting in your piffling bottle.
Nothing that would interest you. You is only interested in guzzling human beings.
And you is as dirty as a duck's waggler. I suppose this is the filthum, rotsome glubbage you is eating. You must be cockles to be guzzling such rubsquatch.
The blood bottler grabbed the half-eaten Snozz Cumber from the table and waved it in the air. The BFG looked fearfully at the empty table. Where was Sophie? He didn't know she had hidden herself inside the Snozz Cumber, but the blood bottler seemed to have forgotten about her. If only, thought the BFG, he could get him to take one bite of the repulsive vegetable, the sheer foulness of its flavor would send him bellowing out of the cave.
Is you never trying a Snozz Cumber blood bottler? I's guzzling it gleefully every night and day.
Human beings is juicier.
You is talking rummy tot. I is happy to let you sample it, but please, when you see how truly glumptious it is, do not be guzzling the whole thing. Leave me a little snitchit for my supper.
Oh my goodness! If he eats the Snozz Cumber, he will eat me too!
You is not switch fiddling me, is you?
Never. Take a bite, and I am positive you will be shouting out, "Oh, how scrumdiddlyumptious this wonder veg is!"
Just this once. I am going to taste this rotsome eats of yours. But I is warning you that if it is filthsome, I is smashing it over your sludgy head.
What shall I do? If I call out, he'll hear me and eat me. And if I don't, he'll eat me with the Snozz Cumber. He's going to bite into it now. Everything's gone dark. I'm inside Blood Bottler's mouth. And I'm going to be swallowed.
You little swine buckler! You little pig swiller! Take that!
You is not loving it?
Loving it? That is the most disgustous taste that is ever touching my teeth. You must be boggles to be swallowing sludge like that. Every night you could be galloping off happy as a hamburger and gobbling juicy human beings.
Eating human beings is wrong and evil.
It is ghastly and glumptious. Tonight, I is galloping off to Chile to swabble a few chili beans. Is you wishing to know why I is choosing Chile?
I is not wishing to know anything.
I is choosing Chile because I is fed up with the taste of Eskimos. It is important I has plenty of cold eats in this scuttling hot weather. And the next coldest thing to an Eskimo is a chili bean. Human beings from Chile is very chilly.
Horrible. You ought to be ashamed.
Other giants is all saying they's wanting to gallop off to England tonight to guzzle school chidlers. I is very fond of English school chidlers. They has a nice inky book flavour. Perhaps I will change my mind and go to England with them.
You is disgusting.
And you is an insult to the giant peoples. You is not fit to be a giant. You is a squinky little squiggler. You is a pibbling little peep squeak. You is a cream puff nut.
Oh, wonder crumps. He's gone at last. Now, Sophie? Where is you, Sophie?
I'm here.
Where is here?
I'm caught up in the folds of your cloak hanging on the wall.
Well, how is a tiddling thing like you managing to get up there?
I was in Blood Bottler's mouth.
You was what?
I was hiding in the Snozz Cumber, and I thought he was going to swallow me. But luckily he didn't like the taste and he spat it out. And me with it. It's a good thing I landed on your cloak and didn't hit the wall of the cave.
And there was I telling him to eat the filthum Snozz Cumber, and you was all the time inside it.
Not much fun.
Just look at you, you poor little chiddler. You is all covered in Snozz Cumber and giant spit. Let me wipe you clean. There.
Thank you.
Oh, I is hating those other giants more than ever now. Do you know what I should like?
What?
I should like to find a way of disappearing them, every single one.
I'd be glad to help you. Let me see if I can't think up a way of doing it. But I really must have something to eat and drink first.
Oh, yes.
I would have finished breakfast long ago if I'd been at home. Are you sure there's nothing else to eat around here except those disgusting, smelly Snozz Cumbers?
Not even a fizzwinkle.
In that case, may I please have a little water?
Water? What is water?
We drink it. What do you drink?
Frobscottle. All giants is drinking frobscottle.
Is it as nasty as your Snozz Cumbers?
Nasty? Never is it nasty. Frobscottle is sweet and jumbly. I has it in my other cupboard. Here, half a bottle left. Here is frobscottle. Delumptious, fizzy frobscottle.
What a pretty colour. Lovely pale green and lots of bubbles.
If I'm shaking it, there's lots more bubbles coming.
But look, it's fizzing the wrong way.
What on earth is you meaning the wrong way?
Well, the bubbles aren't travelling upwards and bursting on the surface. They're shooting downwards and bursting at the bottom. All that green frothy fizz ought to be at the top, not the bottom of the bottle. In our fizzy drinks, the bubbles always go up and burst at the top.
Upwards is the wrong way. You mustn't ever be having the bubbles going upwards. That's the most flush-bunking rubbish I ever is hearing.
Why do you say that?
You is asking me why? You is actually meaning to tell me you cannot see why it is a scrotty mistake to have the bubbles flying up instead of down?
You said it was flush-bunking. Now you say it's scrotty. Which is it?
Both. It is a flush-bunking and a scrotty mistake to let the bubbles go upwards. If you can't see why, you must be as quacky as a duckhound. By Ringo, your head must be so full of frog squinkers and buzzwangles. I is fritted if I know how you can think at all.
Why shouldn't the bubbles go upward?
I will explain. Upgoing bubbles is a catastrophe disastrophe.
Will you please tell me why?
When you is drinking your sort of drink, it is going straight down into your tummy. Is that right, or is it left?
It's right.
And the bubbles is also going into your tummy, right or left?
Right again.
And the bubbles is fizzing upwards.
Of course.
Which means that they will all come swish-whiffling up your throat and out of your mouth and make a foulsome, belchy burp.
That is often true. But what's wrong with a little burp now and again? Well, it's sort of fun.
Burping is filthsome. Us giants is never doing it.
But with your frobscottle drink, the bubbles in your tummy will be going downwards, and that could have a far nastier result.
Why nasty?
Oh, because, well, if they go down instead of up, they'll be coming out somewhere else, with even a louder and ruder noise.
A whiz-popper. Us giants is making whiz-poppers all the time. Whiz-popping is a sign of happiness. It is music to our ears. You surely is not telling me that a little whiz-popping is forbidden among human beings?
It is considered extremely rude.
But you is whiz-popping, is you not, now and again?
Everyone is whiz-popping, if that's what you call it. But where I come from, it is not polite to talk about it.
Redunculous! If everybody is making whiz-poppers, then why not talk about it? We is now having a squiggle of this delicious frobscottle, and you will see the happy result. I gives it a fulsome shake. And squiggles a swallowful. Oh, it's glummy. Oh, I love it.
For a few moments, the big friendly giant stood quite still, and a look of absolute ecstasy began to spread over his face. Then suddenly, the heavens opened, and he let fly with a series of the loudest and rudest noises Sophie had ever heard in her life. But most astonishing of all, the force of the explosions actually lifted the enormous giant clean off his feet, like a rocket.
Whoopee! Ha Now that is whiz popping for you. Have some yourself. Open your mouth and I'll pour it in for you.
Oh, gosh, it's delicious. It tastes of vanilla and cream and the faintest trace of raspberries.
Yes.
And the bubbles are wonderful. I can feel them bursting and bouncing all around my tummy. It's amazing. It's lovely.
Just wait till the bubbles is getting lower and lower. Bravo! You was very good for a beginner. Let's have some more. Oh, that's a beauty. Here, listen to this. Oh. Look out! Oh, you is feeling better now.
Much better, thank you.
Whenever I is feeling a bit scrotty, a few gollops of frobscottle is always making me hopscotchy again.
I must say, it's quite an experience.
It's a ras twizzler. It's gloriumptious. I is galloping off now to catch some more whopsy whiffling dreams for my collection. I is doing this every day without missing. Is you wishing to come with me?
Not me, thank you very much. Not with those other giants lurking outside.
Well, I is snuggling you very cozy into the pocket of my waistcoat. Then no one is seeing you. There you is.
Oh!
Is you wishing for a little hole to peep out from?
There is one here already.
Oh.
I can see through it very well indeed, but nobody can see me, thank goodness.
The big friendly giant took his dream-catching net and his suitcase filled with empty jars, left the cave, and set off across the great hot yellow wasteland where blue rocks lay and dead trees stood, and where all the other giants were skulking about.
Hold your breaths, cross your figglers, here we go. We's going right past all these other giants. Is you seeing that whopping great one, the one nearest to us?
I see him.
Well, that is the horriblest of them all, and the biggest of them all. He is called the flesh lump-eating giant.
I don't want to hear about him.
He is 54 feet high, and he is swallowing human beings like they is sugar lumps, 2 or 3 at a time.
You're making me nervous.
I is nervous myself. I always gets as jumpy as a jog hopper when the flesh lump-eater giant is around.
Keep away from him.
Not possible. He is galloping easily 2 times as quickly as me.
Shall we turn back?
Turning back is worse. If they see me running away, they is all giving chase and throwing rocks.
They would never eat you, though, would they?
Giants is never guzzling other giants. They is fighting and squarreling a lot with each other, but never guzzling. Human beings is more tasty to them.
Oh, here comes the runty one. Oh, there, runty one. Where is you splat winkling away to in such a hefty hurry?
Oh, be so kind as to be letting go of my hair, flesh lump eater.
Now then, you little grub squillifer. We's all of us wanting to know where you is galloping off to every day in the daytime. Nobody ought to be galloping off to anywhere until it is getting dark. The human beings could easily be spotting you and starting a giant hunt. And we's not wanting that to happen, is we not?
We is not. No, I is not galloping to any human being country. I is going to other places.
I is thinking that you is catching human beings and keeping them as pets.
Right, you is. Just now, I is hearing him chittering away to one of them in his cave.
You is welcome to go and search my cave from frack to bunt. You can go looking into every crook and nanny. There is no human beans or stringy beans or runner beans or jelly beans or any other beans in there.
Sophie crouched still as a mouse inside the big friendly giant's pocket. She hardly dared to breathe. Through the tiny peephole, she watched the giants clustering around the poor BFG. Every one of them was twice as tall as he was. Suddenly, the flesh lump eater shot out 2 enormous arms and grabbed the BFG around the waist. He tossed him high in the air.
Oh, dear!
him, man hooker! Got him! Catch him,
And so it went on. The giants were playing ball with the BFG, vying with each other to see who could throw him the highest. Sophie dug her nails into the sides of the pocket, trying to prevent herself from tumbling out when she was upside down. What would happen if one of the giants failed to catch the BFG and he went crashing to the ground?
Catch him, mate, Tripper! Don't catch him, gizzard gonker!
Catch him, mate, Masher!
The giants continued to throw the poor BFG higher and higher into the air, until at last they got bored with this game. They dumped him on the ground and told him to run while they threw rocks at him. The BFG ran. What else could he do? At last he got clear of them all, and in another couple of minutes the pack of giants was out of sight over the horizon. Sophie popped her head up from the pocket.
I didn't like that.
Oh, few and far between. Oh, they was in a nasty, crotching mood today, was they not? Are you sorry you was having such a whirligig time?
No worse than you. Would they ever really hurt you?
I isn't ever trusting them.
How did they actually catch the humans they eat?
They is usually just sticking an arm in through the bedroom window and snitching them from their beds.
Like you did to me?
Ah, but I isn't eating you.
If all these people are disappearing every night, surely there's some sort of outcry.
Oh, the world is a whopping big place. It has 100 different countries. The giants is clever. They is careful not to be skiddling off to the same country too often. They's always switch fiddling around.
Even so...
Do not forget that human beings is disappearing everywhere, all the time, even without the giants is guzzling them up. Human beings is killing each other much quicker than the giants is doing it.
But they don't eat each other.
Giants isn't eating each other either, nor is giants killing each other. Giants is not very lovely, but they is not killing each other. Nor is crocodile dillies killing other crocodile dillies, nor is pussycats killing pussycats.
They kill mice.
Ah, but they is not killing their own kind. Human beings is the only animal that is killing their own kind. They is shooting guns and going up in aeroplanes to drop their bombs on each other's heads every week. Human beings is always killing other human beings.
Even so, I think it's rotten that these foul giants should go off every night and eat humans. Humans have never done them any harm.
That is what the little piggy-wig is saying every day. He is saying, I has never done any harm to any human being. So why should he be eating me?
Oh dear.
Is you quite cosy down there in my pocket?
I'm fine.
Then we is going speed full of foot. We is here at last.
Where are we?
We is in dream country. This is where all dreams is beginning. From now on, we is keeping as still as winky little mices.
They were in a country of swirling mists and ghostly vapours. There was no sign of any other living creature as the BFG took Sophie from his pocket and placed her gently on the ground. The misty vapour swirled around her. It made her cheeks damp and left dewdrops in her hair. The BFG opened his suitcase and took out several empty glass jars. His colossal ears were beginning to wave to and fro. Suddenly, he leapt high in the air and swung his net with a great sweep of his arm.
Got him! A jar, quick!
Here, is this one all right?
Yeah, very fine. Now the jar top, quick! There. I've caught a wink squiffer. It's even better. It's a fizz wizard. It's a golden fizz wizard.
Is it a really good one?
A good one? It's a golden fizz wizard. Oh, it is not often I is getting one of these. Please be still as a starfish now, and do kindly stop breathing. You is terribly noisy down there.
I haven't moved a muscle.
Then don't. Another jar! Quick! Oh, no! Oh, mince my maggots! Oh, swipe me swoggles!
What's the matter?
It's a troggle humper! Oh, save our solos, deliver us from weasels! The devil is dancing on my dibbler!
What are you talking about?
Oh, bash me eye bones! I has come all this way to get lovely golden dreams, and what is I catching?
What are you catching?
I is catching a frightsome troggle humper. This is a bad dream. It is worse than a bad dream. It is a nightmare.
Oh dear. What will you do with that?
I is never letting it go. If I do, then some poor little toddler will be having the most curd-bloodlin' time. This one is a real kicksy bog thumper. I is exploding it as soon as I get home.
Is it as bad as that?
It's worse. This is a real wopsy grob switcher.
You said it was a troggle humper.
It is a troggle humper, but it is also a bog thumper and a grob switcher. It is all three riddled into one. Oh, I is glad I is clutching it tight in this jar. Ah, you wicked beastie, you! Never more is you gonna be bunk-doodling the poor little human beanie toddlers.
I can see it. There's something in the jar.
Of course there's something in there. You was looking at a frightsome troggle-humper.
But you told me dreams were invisible.
They is always invisible until they is captured. After that, they is losing a little of their invisibility. We is seeing this one very clearly.
It's a sort of mixture between a blob of gas and a bubble of jelly. It's wiggling all over the place. It'll bash itself to bits.
The nastier the dream, the angrier it is getting when it is in prison. This one is a nasty, fierce, bog-grotting nightmare. Just look at him, splashing himself against the glass.
It's quite frightening.
I will be hating to get this one inside me on a darksome night. Come now, I is putting you back in my pocket.
Is that all? Are we going?
I is so upset by this troggle-humping, bog-thumping grob switcher that I is not wishing to go on. Dream catching is finished for today.
The BFG packed his jars away in his suitcase, and with Sophie safely back in his waistcoat pocket, he raced home as fast as he could go. When at last they emerged out of the mist and came again onto the hot yellow wasteland, all the other giants were sprawled out on the ground, fast asleep.
They is always having 50 winks before they goes scumpering off to hunt human beings in the evening.
They do snore an awful lot.
By gumfrog, I is just having the most wopsy whiffling idea.
What?
Wait, hold your horse feathers, keep your skirt on. Just you wait to see what I is going to bring about.
The BFG dashed into his cave and brought out the long trumpet thing he'd been carrying when Sophie first saw him in the village. He crept up to within 10 feet of the flesh lump eater's face. taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, faintly scarlet trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips, took a deep breath, and blew the nightmare directly into Flesh Lumpita's face.
We'd better be skilling away quick to where it is safe. Now we is waiting for the gun and flames to begin. He's still asleep. The terrible troggle-lumping nightmare is beginning to hit him.
Serves him right.
Save us! He's after getting me! He's getting me! It's Jack! It's the grueful, gruntious Jack! Jack's after me! Jack is whack-cracking me! Oh, it's the terrible fright swiping Jack! Oh.
Is this Jack he's on about?
Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of. They is all absolutely terrified of Jack. They is hearing that Jack is a famous giant killer.
Save me! Have mercy on this poor little giant! Oh, he's coming back at me with his terrible spike-sticking beanstalk! Take it away! I'm begging you! Oh, Jack! Oh, he's praying you not to touch me with your terrible spike-sticking beanstalk!
Us giants is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is knowing only that he is a famous giant killer and that he is owning something called a beanstalk. We is knowing also that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing and Jack is using it to kill giants. What is you griggling at?
I'll tell you later. He's getting very agitated, isn't he? Waving his arms about like anything. He'll hit the other giants if he's not careful.
No, do not do it, Jack. I was not in you, Jack. I swear, I was never gobbled a single human being in all my wholesome life.
Oh, he has hit them.
Oh, he's swiping me right in the mouth.
He is bung-swoggling me smack in the guts.
Oh dear. Now what will happen?
They is all going to fight each other. I is loving it when they is all having a good tough and rumble.
They'll kill each other.
Never. Those beasts is always bishing and walloping at one another. Soon it will be getting dusky and they will be galloping off to fill their tummies.
They're coarse and foul and filthy. I hate them.
We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we?
Excellent use. Well done, you.
Leaving the 9 giants pinching and kicking and scratching each other as hard as they could, the BFG returned to his cave and set Sophie down on the table. Then, with great care, he began to print something on a piece of paper with an enormous pencil.
What are you writing?
Every dream is having its special label on the bottle. How else could I be finding the one I'm wanting in a hurry?
But can you really and truly tell what sort of a dream it's going to be by simply listening to it?
I can,
And what is this one about? May I read what you have written?
if you is wanting to.
This dream is about how I is saving my teacher from drowning. I is diving into the river from a high bridge, and I is dragging my teacher to the bank. If you blew this dream into my bedroom when I was asleep, would I really start dreaming about saving my teacher from drowning?
More, a lot more. I is usually writing more than this on the labels, but you is watching me and making me jumpsy.
I'll go and sit somewhere else.
No, don't go. Look in the jar carefully, and I think you will be seeing this dream.
Oh, it's small and soft and shimmering. It's moving. It's alive.
Well, of course it's alive.
What will you feed it on?
It is not needing any food.
That's cruel. Everything alive needs food of some sort, even trees and plants.
The north wind is alive. It is moving. It touches you on the cheek and on the hands, but nobody is feeding it. A dream is not needing anything. If it is a good one, it is waiting peaceably forever until it is released and allowed to do its job. If it is a bad one, it's always fighting to get out.
Please, can I see some of your other dreams?
Well, nobody has ever seen them before. But perhaps after all, I is letting you have a little peep. Stand on my hand. That's it. Now, I is carrying you over to the shelves. And over here is some of the good dreams, the Fizzwizards.
Would you mind holding me a little closer so I can read the labels?
My labels is only telling bits of it. The dreams is usually much longer. The labels is just to remind me.
Some have got very tiny labels. Why is that?
That is because one day I is catching so many dreams, I is not having the time or energy to write out long labels. But there is enough to remind me.
Let me see. I am climbing Mount Everest with just my pussycat for company. I is inventing a car that runs on toothpaste.
Go on there.
I is able to make the electric lights go on and off just by wishing it. What amazes me is how you ever learnt to write in the first place.
I has been wondering how long it is before you was asking me that.
Considering you never went to school, I think it is quite marvellous. How did you learn?
I is showing you. Look here. One night, I is blowing a dream through a window, and I sees this book lying on the little boy's bedroom table. I wanted it so very badly, you understand. But I is refusing to steal it. I would never do that.
So how did you get it?
I borrowed it. Just for a short time, I borrowed it.
How long have you had it?
Perhaps only about 80 years. Soon I shall be putting it back.
And that's how you taught yourself to write.
I is reading it hundreds of times, and I is still reading it and teaching new words to myself and how to write them. It is the most scrumdiddlyumptious story.
Let me see. What is it called? Nicholas Nickleby.
By Dahl's Chickens.
By who? What's that terrible noise?
That is all the giants zip fizzing off to another country to guzzle human beings. I is showing you when I is putting you back in my waistcoat pocket.
Oh!
There. Can you still be seeing all right?
Yes, thank you.
Good. I is rolling back the stone, so we is going outside. There they is, look. All 9 giants, all fulsome galloping. Where is you off to tonight?
We's all of us flush bunking off to England tonight. Oh. England is a luxurious land, and we's fancying a few nice little English settlers.
I is knowing where there is a giggle house for girls, and I is guzzling myself full as a breath blower.
And I know where there is a boggle box for boys. All I has to do is reach in and grab a hamper. English boys is tasting extra licks with it.
What is a giggle house for girls?
He is meaning a girls' school. He will be eating them by the bundle.
Oh no!
And boys from a boys' school.
It mustn't happen. We've got to stop them.
There's not a thing we can do. We is as helpless as horse feathers. I can take you out of my pocket now.
Oh no!
It's quite safe for you to be outside until they is coming back.
We've absolutely got to stop them. Put me back in your pocket quick, and we'll chase after them and warn everyone in England they're coming.
Redunculous and impossible. They is going 2 times as fast as me, and they is finishing their guzzle before we is halfway.
The sun had dipped below the horizon, and it was getting dark as the 9 giants disappeared into the distance on their way to seek out the unfortunate children who would become their suppers. Sophie and the BFG sat quietly side by side on a rock in the gathering dusk. She had never felt so helpless in all her life.
We can't just sit here doing nothing. How many girls and boys are those terrible giants going to eat tonight?
Many. The flesh lump-eating giant alone has a most squackling, whopsy appetite.
Will he snatch them out of their beds while they're sleeping?
Like peas out of a pottle.
I can't bear to think of it.
Then don't. For years and years I is sitting here on this very rock every night after night when they is galloping away, and I is feeling sad for all the human beings they's gonna gobble up. But I has to get used to it. There is nothing I can do. If I wasn't a titchy little runty giant only 24 feet high, then I would be stopping them. But that is absolutely out of the window.
Do you always know where they're going?
Always. Every night they is yelling at me as they go bootling past.
It's no good. I can't stand it. Just think of those poor girls and boys who are going to be eaten alive in a few hours' time. We've got to go after those brutes.
I has told you 5 or 6 times, and the 3rd will be the last. I is never showing myself to human beings. If I do, they'll be putting me in the zoo with all the jiggery rafts and catty piddlers.
Nonsense.
And they will be sending you straight back to an orphanage. Grown-up human beings is not famous for their kindnesses. They is all squiffle rotters and grink sludgers.
That simply isn't true. Some of them are very kind indeed.
Who? Name one.
The Queen of England.
The flesh lump eater is longing dearly to guzzle her up.
Who, the Queen?
Yes, Flesh Lump Eater says he is never eating a queen, and he thinks perhaps she has an especially scrumdiddlyumptious flavour.
How dare he?
But Flesh Lump Eater says there is too many soldiers around her palace, and he dursn't try it.
He'd better not.
He's a very careful giant.
I've got it. By golly, I think I've got it.
Got what?
The answer. We'll go to the Queen. If I went and told the Queen about those disgusting man-eating giants, I'm sure she'll do something about it.
She'd never believe in you, never in a month of Mondays. I has told you before that human beings is simply not believing in giants.
But we don't have to tell her. We'll make her dream it.
That is an even more froth-bungling suggestion. Dreams is lots of fun, but nobody is believing in dreams either. As soon as you is waking up, you is saying, "Oh, thank goodness it was only a dream."
Don't you worry about that part of it. I can fix that. Can you make a person dream absolutely anything in the world?
Anything you like. I is just mixing it up like making a cake with little bits from the dillions of dreams on my shelves.
Good. Now here's the dream I want you to mix. Are you paying attention?
Very close.
I want the Queen to dream that 9 disgusting giants, each one about 50 feet tall, are galloping to England in the night. She must dream their names as well. What are their names again?
Flesh Lump Eater, Man Hugger, Bone Cruncher, Child Chewer, Meat Dripper, Gizzard Gulper, Maid Masher, Blood Bottler, and the Butcher Boy.
Let her dream all those names and that they will be reaching into the bedroom windows and pulling the little boys and girls out of their beds and eating them. And that when their tummies are full, they will go galloping back to Giantland where no one can find them.
Is that all?
Certainly not. You must then explain in her dream that there is a big, friendly giant who can tell her where all those beasts are living so that she can send her soldiers to capture them once and for all. And now let her dream that there is a little girl called Sophie sitting on her windowsill who will tell her where the big, friendly giant is hiding.
Where is he hiding?
We'll come to that later. So the Queen dreams her dream, right?
Right.
Then she wakes up, and the first thing she thinks is, "Oh, what a horrid dream." Then she looks up from her pillow, and what does she see?
What does she see?
She sees a little girl called Sophie sitting on her windowsill.
How is you going to be sitting on the Queen's windowsill, may I beg?
You are going to put me there, and that's the lovely part about it.
I is beginning to see where you is driving to. If the Queen is knowing that part of her dream is true, then perhaps she is believing the rest of it is true as well.
That's about it.
You said you is wanting the dream to say that there is a big, friendly giant who is also going to talk to the Queen.
Absolutely.
How is I meeting the Queen? I is not wanting to be shooted at by her soldiers.
The soldiers are only in the front of the palace. At the back, there is a huge garden, and there are no soldiers there at all. There is a very high wall with spikes on it around the garden, but you could simply walk over that.
How is you knowing all this about the Queen's palace?
Last year, I was in a different orphanage. It was in London, and we used to go for walks all around there.
I has never dared to go hide and sneaking around London in my life.
I'll show you the way.
You is absolutely sure the Queen will not put me in a zoo with all the caterpillars?
Of course she won't. You'll be a hero, and you'll never have to eat Snozz Cumbers again.
You mean it? You really mean it? No more disgusting Snozz Cumbers?
You couldn't get one if you wanted it. Humans don't grow them.
That does it! When is you wanting me to mix this special dream?
Now, at once.
When is we going to see the Queen?
Tonight, as soon as you've mixed the dream.
Then we'd better get crackling.
The BFG went back to his cave and searched through his multitude of jars for the right ingredients to mix together for the Queen's dream. It was the middle of the night by the time he had finished, and then he set out for London, England, with Sophie, still in her nightgown, sitting comfortably in one of his enormous ears. Swiftly his long legs covered the ground, and they soon arrived at the Queen's palace. He pushed his long trumpet through the Queen's bedroom window and blew in the dream he had prepared. Then he placed Sophie gently on the windowsill.
Is you all right sitting there?
Yes. How long will the dream take to work?
Some takes an hour, some is quicker, some is slower still, but it is sure to find her in the end. I is going off to wait in the garden. When you is wanting me, just call out my name and I is coming very quick.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, he kissed me.
At last, morning came, and Sophie heard a knock on the Queen's bedroom door.
Good morning, Your Majesty. Will you have your tray on the bed, ma'am, or on the table?
Oh, Mary, I've just had the most frightful dream. It was a nightmare. It was awful.
Oh, I am sorry, ma'am. Oh, but don't be distressed. You're awake now, and it will go away. It was only a dream.
But it was all so vivid, Mary. It was so real.
Shall I draw the curtains, ma'am? Then you'll feel better. Oh, it's a lovely day.
Please do. Ah! Oh, a little girl in glasses sitting on the windowsill.
I'll take her out, ma'am, at once.
No, Mary, no. Don't do that.
Are you all right, ma'am?
Tell me, Mary, tell me quite truthfully, is there really a little girl sitting on my windowsill? Or am I still dreaming?
Oh, she's sitting there all right, ma'am, as clear as day. But heaven only knows how she got there. Your Majesty's certainly not dreaming it.
But that's exactly what I did dream. Are you real?
Yes, Your Majesty.
What is your name?
Sophie, Your Majesty.
And how did you get up to my windowsill? No, don't answer that. I dreamed that part of it too. I dreamed that a giant put you there.
He did, Your Majesty.
Ah! Control yourself, Mary. Now, Sophie, you are not serious about this giant, are you?
Oh, yes, Your Majesty. He's out there in the garden now.
Is he indeed?
He is a good giant, Your Majesty. You need not be frightened of him.
I'm delighted to hear it.
He is my best friend, Your Majesty.
How nice.
He's a lovely sort of giant, Your Majesty.
I'm quite sure he is, but why have you and this giant come to see me?
I think you have dreamed that part of it too, Your Majesty.
Yes. Now you come to mention it, I did.
Shall I call him for you? You'll like him very much.
Oh, very well. You may call your giant.
BFG! Her Majesty the Queen would like to see you.
Come down off that ledge, Sophie. You're going to fall backwards any moment.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Well, I don't see any giant.
Here he comes, Your Majesty.
Oh!
Your Majesty, I is your humbug servant.
We are very pleased to meet you.
Oh, Majesty, oh, Queen, oh, Monarcher, oh, golden sovereign, oh, ruler of straight lines, oh, Sultana. I is come here with my little friend Sophie to give you
To give me what?
assistance.
I beg your pardon.
He sometimes speaks a bit funny, Your Majesty. He never went to school.
Well, then we must send him to school. We have some very good schools in this country.
I has great secrets to tell your Majesty.
I should be delighted to hear them, but not in my dressing gown. Have either of you had breakfast?
Oh, could we? Oh, please. Yeah. I haven't eaten a thing since yesterday.
I was about to have mine. Perhaps you would care to join me.
Will it be repulsant, Snozz Cumber's Majesty?
What is he talking about? It sounds like a rude word to me. Mary, ask them to serve breakfast for 3 in the, I think it had better be in the ballroom. That has the highest ceiling. I'm afraid you will have to go through the door on your hands and knees. I shall send someone to show the way.
Sophie, you and I is leaving Her Majesty alone to get dressed.
No, leave the little girl here with me. We'll have to find something for her to put on. She can't have breakfast in her nightie.
Can we have sausages, Your Majesty? And bacon and fried eggs?
I think that might be managed.
Just you wait till you taste it, BFG. No more Snozz Cumbers from now on.
There was a frantic scurry among the palace servants when orders were received from the Queen that a 24-foot giant must be seated with Her Majesty in the great ballroom within the next half hour. Mr. Tibbs, the butler, gave directions to his staff.
Push the grand piano into the center of the room. Now fetch a large chest of drawers and put it on top of the grand piano. That will be his chair. It is exactly 8 feet off the ground. Now we shall make a table upon which this gentleman may eat his breakfast in comfort. Fetch me 4 very tall grandfather clocks. Let each clock be 12 feet higher. Place the 4 clocks in a rectangle 8 feet by 4 alongside the grand piano. Now fetch me the young prince's ping-pong table without its legs. Very good. Now place the ping-pong table on top of the 4 grandfather clocks. And we have a table fit for a giant. Tell the head gardener that I require immediately a brand new unused garden fork and also a spade to serve as a spoon. For a knife, we shall use the great sword hanging on the wall in the morning room.
When all was ready, breakfast was served to the Queen, the BFG and Sophie, who was now wearing a pretty blue dress that had once belonged to one of the princesses. The BFG scooped up 8 eggs, 12 sausages, 16 rashers of bacon, and a heap of fried potatoes with his spade, and swallowed them in one great gulp.
By goggles, this stuff is making Snozz Cumbers taste like Swatch Wallop.
He has never eaten anything except Snozz Cumbers before in his life, Your Majesty. They taste revolting.
They don't seem to have stunted his growth.
That was only one titchy little bite. Is you having any more of this deluxious grubble in your cupboard, Magister?
Tibbs, fetch the gentleman another dozen fried eggs and a dozen sausages.
Very good, ma'am.
What is this in this jug, Magister?
It's coffee, freshly ground.
It's filthsome. Where's the frobscottle?
The what?
Delumptious, fizzy frobscottle. Then we can all be whiz-popping happily together.
What does he mean? What is whiz-popping?
BFG, there is no frobscottle here, and whiz-popping is strictly forbidden.
What? No gluptious music? No boom, boom, boom?
If he wants to sing, please don't stop him.
He doesn't want to sing.
Listen, if they isn't having any frobscottle here in the palace, I can still go whiz-popping perfectly well without it if I is trying hard enough.
No, don't! I beg you!
The music is very good for the digestion. When I'm up in Scotland, they play bagpipes outside the window while I'm eating. Do play something.
I has Her Magister's permission.
Oh!
Whoopee! That is better than bagpipes, is it not, Magister?
I prefer bagpipes.
During the next 20 minutes, a whole relay of footmen were kept busy hurrying to and fro from the kitchen, carrying third helpings and fourth helpings and fifth helpings of fried eggs and sausages for the ravenous and delighted BFG. And while this was going on, Sophie told the Queen everything about her visit to Giant Country. When she had finished, the Queen looked up at the BFG, who was sitting high above her.
Big friendly giant, last night those man-eating brutes came to England. Can you remember where they went the night before?
Yes, Magister. I do think I is remembering where they said they was going the night before last. They was galloping off to Sweden for the Sweden sour taste.
Fetch me a telephone.
Very good, ma'am.
Get me the King of Sweden.
Hello?
Oh, good morning. Is that the King of Sweden?
Yes?
This is the Queen of England. Is everything all right in Sweden?
Everything is terrible. There is panic in the capital. 2 nights ago, 26 of my loyal subjects disappeared. My whole country is in a panic.
Your 26 loyal subjects were all eaten by giants. Apparently, they like the taste of Swedes.
Why do they like the taste of sweets?
Because the Swedes of Sweden have a sweet and sour taste. So says the BFG.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's hardly a joking matter when one's loyal subjects are being eaten like popcorn.
They've eaten mine as well.
Who's they, for heaven's sake?
Giants.
Look here. Are you feeling all right?
Yes, thank you. I must go now. Thanks for your help. That proves it, BFG. Your story is apparently true. Summon the head of the army and the head of the air force immediately.
The heads of the army and the air force had no doubts about what should be done.
We'll bomb the blighters. We'll mow them down with machine guns.
I do not approve of murder.
But they are murderers themselves.
That is no reason why we should follow their example. 2 wrongs don't make a right.
And 2 rights don't make a left.
We must bring them back alive.
How? I mean, they are all 50 feet tall.
They'd knock us down like 9 pins.
Wait, hold your horseflies. I think I has the answer.
Let him speak.
Every afternoon, all these giants is in the land of Noddy.
I can't understand a word this fellow said.
He means the land of Nod. It's pretty obvious.
Exactly. Every afternoon, all these 9 giants is lying on the ground, snoozling away in a very deep sleep.
Go on. So what?
So what you soldiers has to do is to creep up to the giants while they are still in the land of Noddy and tie their arms and legs with mighty ropes and wonking chains.
Ah, brilliant.
That's all very well. But how do we get the brutes back here? We can't load 50-foot giants onto trucks. Shoot 'em on the spot, that's what I say.
Mr. Head in the Air, you is having belly poppers, is you not?
Is he being rude?
He means helicopter.
And why doesn't he say so? Of course we have helicopters.
Whoopsie big belly poppers?
Very big ones. But no helicopter's big enough to get a giant like that inside it.
You do not put him inside. You sling him underneath the belly of your belly popper and carry him like a torpedo.
Like a what?
Like a torpedo.
Could you do that, Air Marshal?
I suppose we could.
Then get cracking. You'll need 9 helicopters, 1 for each giant.
Where's this place? I presume you can pinpoint it on the map.
Pinpoint? Map? I was never hearing these words before. Is this Air Force bean talking slush bungle?
BFG, can you tell us, more or less, where this giant country is?
A pleasure, Your Majesty. Now, listen to me carefully, you 2 boot bogglers. I is not having the foggiest idea where giant country is in the world, but I is always able to gallop there. I is galloping forthwards and backwards from giant country every night to blow my dreams into little chittlers' bedrooms. So all you have to do is this. Put your 9 big belly poppers up in the air and let them follow me as I is galloping along. If we is leaving now, we will be arriving just as the giants is having their afternoon snozzle.
Splendid! Prepare to leave immediately.
The helicopter pilots were amazed. The BFG galloped on and on through places that were not on their maps at all. At last they arrived in Giantland to find the giants sleeping. The soldiers tied them up tightly and suspended them beneath the helicopters and flew back with them to England. An enormous pit was dug, and the giants were put into it. They awoke and roared as they found themselves captive.
Oh, yes, flush bunko!
Oh, yes, splash, wiggle!
Oh, yes, the walk, the waller!
Oh, yes, goose graggle!
Oh, you bunch of swines!
Oh, yes, bungo!
Ah, yes, slop croggle! Oh, yes, cross-winkled! Oh, yes, mop-mucked!
Why is they putting us down here in this grub-sludging hole?
Because you is guzzling human beings. I is always warning you not to do it, and you is never taking the titchiest bit of notice.
What have you got in that sack, BFG?
Repulsant Snozz Cumbers, Your Majesty. That is all we is going to give these disgusting giants to eat from now on.
May I taste it?
Don't, Magister, don't. It is tasting of trog filth and pig squibble.
What will we feed them on when the Snozz Cumbers are all used up?
They is never being used up, Magister. I is also bringing in this sack a whole bungle of Snozz Cumber plants which I is giving, with your permission, to the royal gardener to put in the soil. Then we is having an everlasting supply of this repulsant food to feed these bloodthirsty giants on.
What a clever fellow you are.
Thank you.
You're not very well educated, but you really are nobody's fool, I can see that.
Every country in the world that had in the past been visited by the foul, man-eating giants sent telegrams of congratulations and thanks to the BFG and to Sophie. kings and presidents and prime ministers and rulers of every kind showered the enormous giant and the little girl with compliments and thank yous, as well as all sorts of medals and presents.
I order that a special house with tremendous high ceilings and enormous doors should immediately be built in Windsor Great Park, next to our own castle, for the BFG to live in, with a special dream storing room where he can keep his precious bottles of dreams. What is more, I award him the title of the Royal Dream Blower.
A little cottage was built next door to the BFG's great house for Sophie to live in. The BFG expressed a wish to learn how to speak properly, and Sophie volunteered to teach him lessons every day. He turned out to be a splendid, intelligent pupil and wrote essays which Sophie read.
These are very good, BFG. I think perhaps one day you could become a real writer.
Oh, I would love that. Do you think I could?
I know you could. Why don't you start by telling the story about you and me?
Very well. I'll give it a try.
And so he did. And you have been listening to the story he told.